Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today's project is going to be this heart hot air balloon. So you'll find this template on my website. I will leave a link to all of my free templates in the description box for this video. You'll want to print out a copy of that. You'll need some different shades of quilling paper. My hot air balloon, the balloon part, the heart, is going to be made of 3 different colors of pink, and I'll go over those in a little bit more detail later on in the video, which ones I have. I also have a little bit of 2 different shades of brown. This is going to be for the basket and the ropes. I have sort of a medium brown and then a little bit more of a tan color. Those are both from Craft Harbor. You are going to also need a workboard. We are going to be working on top of that for a little bit of time. And you're also going to need a thick board for your final surface. We're going to be embossing part of our template onto our board. So I use a big thick mat board, and I will leave a link to that, of course, in addition to all the other supplies. You're going to need a needle tool. You're going to need some small scissors, definitely some tweezers. You're going to need glue. I have just Elmer's glue all in a needle nose container. And I'm also going to be adding a little bit of a crimped element. So if you have a paper crimper, that would be a good thing to grab. We're going to be using the smaller teeth here. So if yours have those kind of teeth, that would be great. A tiny bit of just a clear Scotch tape would be really helpful as well. So you're going to want to grab that. Now, first thing we're going to do is, after you printed out your template, you're going to want to cut a good amount of the excess paper off. And I probably should have grabbed some bigger scissors for this part, but this is going to take just a minute here. You want to leave a little bit of space around your template. You're not going to want to cut right up against it because we are going to be pinning this on our workboard, and if you're cutting right up against it, the pins are going to get in your way. So you want to leave a little bit of space. I usually leave an inch or 2 around, trying to get it in sort of a square shape, but I got a little crooked there because when I'm filming these videos I tend to rush a little bit, or else they're going to be like 2 hours long. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be embossing our shape onto our final surface. Like I said, I have a nice thick mat board that works really well, not only to hold up against the glue, but also for the embossing. And embossing is just a matter of pressing something, a design, into another surface. So I have this tool here. I actually just got it from Dollar Tree, so it was very inexpensive. And it almost looks like a pen with a little ball on the end. And that ball is going to push this design into my mat board and make an indent and an outline of this shape. You won't be able to see it. You know, it's not a pen. It's not making the marks on the paper. It's just an outline. It is, I will let you know, hard to see it on a video. You can definitely see this in person when you're doing it. You can feel it, but you can also see it to make sort of a shadow. It will be tricky to see it on the video. So before anybody tells me they can't see it, I understand. It's just one of those things that doesn't show up very well on video. But you're going to slowly and carefully just press in a bit. You don't want to press so much that you're tearing the template, but press in the entire outline of the hot air balloon and the basket and the ropes. And want to keep this as centered as you can on your final surface. Mine is a little bit off center there, but again, sometimes on videos I rush a little bit. It's okay if it doesn't look exactly. We are going to be covering this for the most part, so you're not going to see these outlines really once your hot air balloon is finished. These are just acting as a guideline. You have your embossed piece. You're going to want to set that aside now. We are going to now take that template again and put it on our workboard under a piece of wax paper or a piece of parchment paper like I have, a sheet of plastic. We're just going to be using this as a place to build the basket part of our project now. So mine a little bit too big. There we go. That is going to work out a little bit better. So I have my parchment paper and I'm going to pin that down on the 4 corners. Don't worry about making holes in your template. You're not going to be using again after this part because you've already have the guide on the mat board and we're just using this part to build the basket. Now to do the basket, you're going to need the darker of your 2 browns and some glue and a little bit of tape, tweezers, scissors. That is going to be helpful. I do have a needle tool here. I'm not going to be using it to roll any paper. I'm just using it to help guide my paper because what we're actually doing is we're going to be weaving our quilling paper because we're making a little basket. To start off with, we're going to be doing the vertical parts of our basket. And I like to tear strips that are a little bit longer on either end. If you want to cut these, that's okay too. They're going to be a little bit longer than the height of the basket. And I want to have enough strips where they can lie side by side and cover the whole thing all the way across. And this paper is 1/8 inch wide, and I think for this basket I used 7 or 8 strips all the way across. But we'll get through this part here and then we will start the weaving. So now I have all of my strips and I'm going to start putting them in order to do the weaving. So I need to anchor them a little bit. And I'm going to do that in 2 different ways. First thing I'm going to do is put a tiny dot of glue on the edge of my basket and then line my first strip up, not right at where the dot is, a little bit higher than the dot. It's about 1/2 inch higher. And then I'm going to keep going. So there's another dot of glue right at the edge, and then the next door strip is going to go a little bit higher than that and right next to the first one. I'm going to keep doing that, a little drop of glue and another strip until I have the entire width of the basket all done. Now I'm at my last strip, 1 more dot of glue, and there we go. And notice these aren't overlapping each other in any way. They are just right next door. That's all you need. Now I'm going to take a piece of just a regular old Scotch tape and I'm just going to tape down just to make sure everything stays 100% right on the edge. Now this is over, that's where the basket ends. This is way over that. So it's not going to mess up anything. We just want a little bit more security when we start weaving that nothing comes up on us. Now I have strips that are going to go in the horizontal direction, in the across part of the basket. And again, they're longer on either side. So I don't have them fitting just exactly right. So now we are ready to start weaving our basket. I'm going to take my first strip. I'm going to go under. That pin out of the way because that's going to start being kind of a hazard soon. I'm going to go under 1 and I'm going to go over 1 and under 1 and over 1. And I'm using a needle tool just to help kind of guide this strip. Once I get it all the way across, push it up as far as it'll go. Remember, we had those little dots of glue, so it's not going to come out of the top. Make sure it's as straight as it can be. You don't really want your weaving to go crooked if you can help it. I'm going to just glue the 2 outside spots here. And I found that that is enough. My glue will help me. That's just enough to keep it set. I'm going to glue the one on one side. You really just need a little tiny bit of glue because you don't really want it to ooze out of this little spot. And I'm going to anchor it on the other side there with a little bit of glue. And that's what you should be looking at this point. with your first strip. And then we're just going to do the same thing, but starting the opposite way that you did the first time. So on the first strip, my first move was under, so the next one's going to be over, and then under, and then over, and keep going all the way across. If you don't have a needle tool for this part, you can use a toothpick, or you can just pull them from the ends. That's fine. I just found this was easier to try to do it as close to where it's going to end up as possible. And there you go. That's our second. And we're going to glue the other way now, because they ended up being on top of the vertical strips. So a little bit. There you go. This isn't a technique. I don't think I've ever shown this on a video before, but you can definitely weave quilling paper, and it does make a nice little basket shape. We're going to keep going this way until we get to the bottom of the outline of our basket. It's only 4 strips for me. And I'm going to anchor this one all the way across just to make sure it stays nice and in place where I want it to. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue where every strip meets on this last strip across. So on both ends, but also hold up. I guess it's just where the ones go over top. That's going to end up being enough. That's fine. A little bit of dot of glue everywhere. Get that to stay. And notice that my weaving is just in the center there. It goes much bigger all the way around. That's what you want. Don't worry about wasting the paper at this point. You really want it to be longer on every side. Once the glue has dried, we're going to take this off of our board, and it should stay because we use glue to anchor everything. Now we're going to cut off excess, but not right to the basket. We're going to leave about a ½ inch or so all the way around on every side. A little bit long there. There we go. That makes it's very satisfying to cut these off. It's like giving it a little haircut. And there is our 4th side. So we get all the excess out of the way, and we're going to flip over our basket and glue all these ends in. We're going to fold them onto the back. I like to use my needle tool as sort of a little guide. And I also try to line them up so that they are going right on top of where they were in the front instead of having everything go crooked. Just makes for a nicer looking piece in the back. And then it's just a matter of adding a little bit of glue and then pressing them down as straight as possible. You're going to do that to all 4 sides. I found that doing the opposite sides first and then the top and bottom made it a little bit less bulky. So I did that one side. I'm going to go across to the other side and then do the top and the bottom in the same exact way. So now you can see you have your little basket there. That's the back. It looks almost exactly like the front, and it's about the right size. It's okay if it's not perfect. No basket is going to be exactly perfect, and that is okay. Now we're going to take our tan paper that I showed earlier, and we're going to run it through the crimper. We only need about an inch, inch and a half or so, just to cover up the one bottom. So it's not very big, but I'm just going to make a couple extra inches here and run it through. Oops, let's try that again. Run it through one of the smallest teeth on my little crimper machine there. That's what we're looking for. And I'm going to just add a little bit of glue along the bottom, whichever side you think is the bottom. Just a little bit of glue along the edge there. And then I'm going to carefully get my crimped piece set as straight as I can, and then press it down to dry without pressing out any of the crimps. We don't want to lose that part. And then we're going to use another piece of that same tan paper, and we're going to make a spiral for the top of our basket. And to do that, you're going to hold your needle tool in one hand, place your strip at an angle, and roll the tip of it over your needle tool. Hold the long end in the same hand that you're using the needle tool and pull it really tight. And then, as you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just twisting the strip, and it pulls it around the needle and makes a spiral. I have a long video on this as well, using an actual, just a metal rod that is made just for these. I'm going to link that in the description box. And you can see it almost already just looks like a little rope. If you can picture a hot air balloon, they sort of sometimes have a big roped end on the top, on the basket, and that's what we have here. And again, if you have any questions about how to make that spiral, I will leave the video in the description box for this one. You're going to want to let that dry on the top of your basket for a bit. It doesn't have as much surface area as a straight piece of quilling paper, so it's going to take a little bit longer for that to really adhere. But then you can go ahead and just carefully snip off your extra of both sides. And that is going to be that for the basket part of our hot air balloon. I'm going to put that aside, and the next thing we're going to do is work on the ropes. So we are back to that tan paper. This paper itself comes in lengths of about 24 inches. We are going to be folding it in a way so that the entire strip is 4 strips thick. I make a lot of double thick strips on this channel when I need a nice sturdy edge piece or a stem for a flower. This I want to be even thicker and sturdier. So I'm going to be folding it into four strips deep. So first I fold it in half and run a full line of glue all the way from end to end without missing any spots. And I'm going to go back to where I folded it and run my fingers through to get any air bubbles out. Make sure that it's fully glued and really nice and straight as much as I can. And normally, if I wasn't doing this in a video, I would let this piece dry and then move on to the next fold. But for time's sake, again, we're just going to scooch on ahead. So that makes it, the first fold makes it 2 thick strip. This is where the 4 come in because we're folding that in half again. So folding in half again, and then a little bit more glue starting from the fold all the way down. And to avoid air bubbles, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have a lot of glue, but it is continuous. So that's why that needle nose glue bottle is really handy for something like this, where you just need a little bit of glue, but you need to make sure it's where you want it. And then fold it back up, run it through your fingers a few times, and that is going to be really thick and really sturdy and perfect for the ropes portion of our project. Now we are back to the embossed mat board. This is where we're going to start building our heart, our hot air balloon. And we are building it right on our final surface, right on our mat board. You can do this any number of ways. We're going to do sort of a loose format. There's not going to be an outline. We're not going to fill up the entire surface area. We're going to give the illusion of the heart balloon by just filling the embossed shape, that outline that we pushed in, with different techniques. We're going to be doing a good amount of swirls, which is what I'm demonstrating here. These are multiple strip swirls. So I have my 3 colors of pink that I chose. The darkest is fuchsia from Quilt Creations. The medium is a pale pink, also Quilt Creations, and the lightest one is a pale pink. That's from Craft Harbor. I'm lining up 2 strips of each on top of each other. They're all about the same size. I'm going from lightest to darkest, and I'm going to be gluing just the very end. Get everything nice and together. Okay, that one piece doesn't want to cooperate. That's okay. So then it's just a matter of, like I said, a tiny bit of glue between each strip right at the very end. I do this technique a lot. This is one of those kind of wow factor that when you see quilling and it just looks really perfect, a lot of times it is swirls. That's what you're looking at. And it might be one of those things, if you've never done it before, where you're like, wow, how is that possible? This is so easy. The trick is just to use a little bit of glue, grab a needle tool, and with the hand that's holding the paper, push with your thumb and your finger to get it started. You're using your thumb and your finger to push over to get it started, and then it just rolls onto itself. I have a whole video on this as well that goes into a lot of detail. I will also link to that. So if you didn't catch anything in making this swirl, please watch that video and it should answer your questions. You can manipulate the strips by pulling each one. If you pull too far, you can push it back in, and that's how you get the nice separation that gives that swirled effect. I'm just going to move each piece a little bit more. I just want this to be a little bit bigger. And that is about what I need. So I'm going to hold the sides, and I'm going to add some glue. And actually, that is not what I wanted to do. First, everybody makes mistakes. So I like to leave my mistakes in because everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes you have to figure out how to get out of them. So what I actually want to do first is just trim each of these strips a little bit first. I actually don't need them to be as long as they are, but I want them to be kind of shingled. So this swirl comes to a point. So now I can add some glue between each layer, just on the ends there, and then just straighten it all out. The swirl itself didn't move because I'm holding the pieces from the side. That's all you need for that. You can make a few different sizes. You can also do something where you roll the end as well. I do show that with detail in that other swirl video. So again, if you have any questions about swirls, you're going to want to check that out. Another technique that I'm using for the balloon is something called a wheat ear, which I think I've only shown once before on the channel when I made a raindrops for an umbrella that I showed a couple years ago. And to do that, you're gluing different length strips all together on one end. I like to kind of run a tool down them just to loosen up the papers a little bit. And then you're going to glue just the other side, make kind of a loop. These strips ended up being a little bit too long for what I wanted, but it's okay to just trim any extra. So another little bit of glue, and then loop that second strip. Again, just trim off extra bits there. You can trim them all at once if you want. You don't have to trim them each as you go, but you're just kind of looking for shingled loops on top of each other, and you get that just by gluing just the ends there. So I have them in the same color scheme, this time with the lightest color on the outside and the darker color on the inside. And you can do these in different sizes. You can kind of make them curve depending on where you're going to put them in your balloon. There you go. So we have some curved wheat ear there, different sizes, but all made in a similar way. And once I have a good amount of pieces together, I'm going to start attaching them directly to the board now. And it's of course optional. You don't have to make your balloon exactly the same way I am. If you want to fully make your hot air balloon on your workboard and then transfer it over, I do that in many, many videos. It's just nice to show different techniques. That's why we're doing it this way, with a lot more negative space and more of a kind of an open concept type idea. So I have put a little bit of glue back on that workboard. I'm going to be dipping my pieces in once I kind of have them figured out where I'd like them to go, using my tweezers, just like I'm showing here. This is just Elmer's glue again. Doesn't have to be covered. You're going to need a lot less glue than you think you are to hold these. The mat board itself really works well with just Elmer's glue. I have kind of figured out where I want this piece to go. Dip it in some glue, kind of dot off the excess, and give it a press just for a second. And again, I don't know if you can see the outline that I embossed onto my mat board there. You'll be able to see it in person. So please don't fear that you won't be able to tell where your heart is. And you're just going to play around with your pieces. I'm not showing an exact way how to do this because, one, you might want to just do your own thing, but also it's very hard to say exactly how big your scroll is going to be, exactly how big your wheat ears are going to be. So you're going to just play with this, see what you like. I always make a couple of these before I start filming a video, and no two turned out the same, and that is okay. There's no exact way how to do this. This is just sort of an experiment. I just like the pieces not to be right on top of each other. Some people, when they're quilling, like a more filled in look. That is okay too. Maybe you want to do some different techniques with different shapes, or beehive, or stripes, or you can do this in any number of ways. I am just doing it this way. So I'm just going to keep filling in. I do like to do my big pieces first. And notice I don't have an exact heart shape still. It's just still kind of piecing things here and there. There's a big space on the left side where I haven't put anything yet. The ones on the right are pretty much right up against the outline. I don't really have the point of the heart. I don't really have the peak on the top still. I'm just kind of filling it in. I have a basic idea in my brain of where it's going to go. Because like I said, I've made a couple of these before, but it's more just an experiment at this point. I have all my big pieces placed in. Now I'm going to fill in some of the empty space with just some scrolls, which are just kind of rolls with a little bit of a tail on the end. So I have a couple here, different colors. I am sticking to the 3 colors of pink that I showed in the beginning. You can do this as a rainbow. You can do it one kind of solid color, or 2 or 4, or whatever you think. But I'm just going to keep going. A little bit more scrolls there. I still have a lot of open space, but it's sort of coming together in the basic heart idea at this point. The other thing you can do to fill in your spaces is just, I like to make just some rolls. Just let them open up just a little bit, into the coils open up just a little bit. And I like to do them in the same color scheme and just kind of dot those around. And I think that fills in empty spaces really nicely as well. I think that is going to be about it. So it gives you a heart. But like I said, it's very open. It's very loose. It's a completely different way of doing quilling. A little bit more modern this way. Totally up to you. Whatever you'd like to do. Once you have your heart and that's dry, you can go ahead and add on the rest of your components. So I'm just going to put some glue along the outside of my basket. And I have that little outline embossed in my mat board, so I'm going to line that up the best I can. Try to make it straight. And I'm going to let that set for a minute, and then I'm going to start on the ropes. And that is the last part. For the ropes, it's going to be a matter of measuring, cutting, measuring, cutting, measuring, cutting. So I sort of get an idea of how long it needs to be first. And normally we tear quilling paper, but it's okay to cut this part. And you want to try to just make sure that these strips are as straight as possible. And then just measure again, trim, measure, trim it. You want to make it so that it fits as tightly as you can. And right on those lines that you embossed, so there should be one right in the middle, and then two on either side. And some days the estimation works really easily, and some days you have to trim 14 times. This was a 14 times kind of day. That's okay. There we go. A tiny bit more. We don't want to knock out that rope on the basket when I glue this in. There we go. And then I'm just attaching this the same way, just dipping it in the glue, wiping off any excess, and holding that for a second right on that line that I embossed in the very beginning. And then once that's set, you can move on to the other two ropes, and you're all done. That's it. So another heart project in the books. This definitely was not probably a project for the very, very beginner of quilling, because there's a lot of technique in this. But if you're looking for a little bit more of a challenge than your standard beginner work, this project is for you. As always, the links for any tools, supplies, videos, and template will be in the description box for this video, as well as a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can find some extras and support me if you would care to. I always appreciate that. Don't forget to leave any questions you have, and I will answer those as soon as I can. And you also want to like and subscribe so you can be around for my next video. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.